what would you say to someone who comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to buy a business for quote unquote passive income"? That seems to always be in my industry, maybe in your industry, is people looking for this idea of passive income. How passive is it really? Because just like you said, it sounds like most people who get the best outcomes are those who are picking businesses that are aligned with their skill set. And it's not necessarily passive, but from my observations, it's usually someone taking the step up from more of an implementation role into a delegation and communication role. And I just want to hear your experience on how passive is it really, and is it more of just taking a new role of ownership?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one because I do get that all the time. They're like, I would just like to make, 100, 200 a year passive income, like absentee, owner 100% absentee. I don't even live in Florida. I'm like, well, this would be really hard. Could it be like part-time? Could you be an implementer? Could you be more of just someone that's coming in and having a weekly team meeting and then following up with people? Maybe. It depends how many employees they have now. And I would say it's going to really be a case by case basis. Like if you buy a bookkeeping company, right? After a year or two, could it become somewhat passive for you when you've got it up and going and really running well? Yeah. But day one, you're probably going to be in a pretty high level role, if not the actual operator. A lot of these small businesses, especially under $1 million, is going to be the person you're buying the business from is now going to be you, right? So they're like the CEO, they're the head of everything, right? Now, a lot of people do try to step back and get key employees, and that's great, but they still have a very big role that you're going to have to fill temporarily until you can implement the changes to get the money up to be able to hire someone and then still make that money. The type of businesses that really make that type of really passive income money are like very expensive, very high level, maybe a consulting firm type of thing. But again, the main person is usually still a backup, right? So, like, if I'm sick, now you are taking over my cases or whatever people I'm working on. But if you don't have those skills, and I quit, you're kind of screwed, right? Because you don't really know what I'm even doing. So you don't really want to put yourself in that situation. It's a lot of the same thing with the trades. Like someone wants to come in and they don't have that license. It's not that they can't hire someone. It's not that they can't pay a qualifier. But if that person leaves you, right, and you're a roofer and you don't have the license, now what? You can't do anything until you hire a new person. And then how are you going to pay your guys? You're going to have really upset clients, etc. Now there's, you could have a backup person. You could meet other people. I'm not saying that, but I think these smaller businesses, stuff that you're going to purchase, like an everyday person like you or I would purchase for something under a couple million, I think you're not necessarily buying a job, but kind of in a sense. And then you could grow it into maybe like what you're talking about. But the stuff over 5 million is going to be mostly going to private equities because there's really no loans for those type of things. And those are where you can more buy an income stream, I would say, because like for me, I have a lot of clients that are in this position where they're making a couple hundred grand. Right? So let's just say it's you and you're like, actually I'm making 200,000. I have money to put in. What would I have to spend to make 200,000? Right? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's going to be a couple million. So you're
Mm-hmm.
going to have to put in at least 10 to 20% on an SBA loan if the seller will take an SBA loan. So we need to find you a business that's making over 400,000 so you can pay the loan and then pay yourself the 200. But you see you don't have any more money to pay anyone else. So that's where you've got to grow it for those couple of years to be able to replace yourself. Now, if you could stick in it 2 to 5 years, do I think you could replace yourself and kind of be there as needed? For sure. Like you're just buying a job. But you are buying a job until you put in the time and energy, I think 9 times out of 10, to replace yourself. These businesses just aren't big enough to pay like another CEO or someone else. Like, unless you don't want to make any money. And then why would you give me like 300,000, 400,000 to invest in a business? I don't make any money. So it's hard, but I think it's great if you're just like at a job that you don't love and you want to put the time and energy in for a couple of years. That's the perfect position if you have a couple bucks to put in to do this. Like I have a couple people that I'm working with right now. One used to be a teacher and now he's buying a business. He's going to make more money than he's ever made. That's super exciting, you know. But he's willing to get down and dirty and do the work, right? He's excited to do the work. And later on, 5, 10 years, I'm sure he'll just hire people to replace himself and then he will have that money. But he's going to have to put the time in because he's also starting at a lower level buying a less expensive business because he doesn't have 300 grand to buy a $3 million. So it depends on your goals. And I think that's why I wish people knew more about business brokers and that we even exist, because we can have these conversations and figure out, like you do with the financial planning, what do you need to do? What are your goals? What are you good at? And then it's like matchmaking.